This is how most of my mornings begin. I wake up pretty early before my husband and dogs, and that's why I'm going to be a little quiet. I color. I am going back and forth this week between doing flexible thinking exercises. So flexible thinking exercises are taking half of a shape and seeing what else you can turn it into. So for example, this is not a feather, and then seeing what you can come up with. This is the one I did yesterday. So this is not a cup. It's a Pioneer wagon. You can tell I grew up Mormon, or at least in the West. I wasn't feeling like I wanted to do a flexible thinking exercise, mostly because when I woke up this morning, my stomach feels super nauseous. I typically only feel this nauseous when I'm feeling big feelings, so that's why I'm doing a color mending session. This is what I have so far. I did a body scan. Obviously, in that body scan, I wrote down the nausea, and now I am taking that nauseous feeling and turning it into a shape and a color. So this is called intuitive coloring, what I'm doing. And so when I am intuitive coloring, I just look at my crayons and decide what color is calling out to me the most. Some of the clients that I work with, they like to have a picture. So they'll take that feeling that they're finding and pull it out in front of them and turn it into a shape and a color even before they start coloring. Sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll have like a very clear picture of what I want to color before I actually color it. But most of the time, it's just me looking at all the colors and then picking the color that sticks out to me. So right now, I'm using this kind of red-orange color. I'll let my hand guide me, and then I'll stop when it feels complete. One of the best things about intuitive coloring is that it is a really helpful exercise in trusting your intuition, trusting your body. It's not really coming from your mind. You're not overanalyzing what you're coloring. You're not judging what you're coloring. You're just coloring. So when I looked at the colors, this orange color stuck out to me. So I'm just going to use it until it feels complete. It doesn't feel like I want to color everything, like fill in all the white spaces. So I'm just going to follow that. That's feeling good. I kind of just want to keep this space white. Sometimes with white, like I'll even take a white crayon and go back and color it white, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just be like, my intention is to keep it white, and that's what it is. Also, this isn't going to hang in a museum, so don't take yourself so seriously. I think that's also one of the things that I work on with my clients the most. This is literally just for you and to understand your inner world. So this is what I colored. The next step to the color mending process is to use the color and shape chart. Now, I like to tell people that once they color out a sensation in their body, especially if it is purely emotion-based and not like a physical symptom, like your upset stomach isn't from the flu, check in back in with that part of your body. I do not feel nauseous anymore. The sensation has changed. It's still there, which to me is just an indicator that the coloring portion wasn't enough, and that by looking at what the shapes and the colors represent is going to come in handy. The color and shapes charts are in the step-by-step guide. You can get a copy of this through the coloring bet. I used to sell these individually, but what I found is that people would just buy it and then they would bitch about like not being able to interpret their coloring. That is why I created the coloring bet, is to be able to take you from not knowing how to intuitively color to being able to interpret your own coloring and to guide yourself successfully through a color mending session. So if you want one of these, link is below. The first step is to list all of the shapes and the colors that you used in your coloring. So when I look at my coloring, I see a yellow oval. I also see blue spikes and black spikes, and then a red-orange background and a white background. Colors represent emotions and shapes represent what the emotions are about. In color mending, colors are broken into two categories, heavy and light. Heavy meaning down, upset, or off, and light meaning airy, good, expansive. Remember, emotions are just clues. They're not rules. They're not judgments about yourself or your character. Some emotions are going to feel heavy and some emotions are going to feel light. Either way, it's just information. I'm going to start with the background colors that I used. So this orange-red color, I'm going to look at both orange and red. And when I look at the emotion categories in those two colors, the ones that resonate the most and stand out to me the most are annoyed and emotional mirroring. So I'm going to write those down. The way that I like to approach the interpretation part of this is that you are looking for an overall message that that emotion or that sensation in your body is trying to bring to your attention. Because emotions are just information or clues about what's going on internally, about steps that you could take to feel more balanced, color mending is a really good way to take that emotion or that sensation or that feeling and put it on a piece of paper to create an external cue that you can objectively look at. Not only do you separate yourself from the feeling, it's also a lot easier to look at what you colored with neutral eyes. What is this emotion trying to tell you? That is the question that we are trying to figure out in this interpretation process. It's also the question that made me create this tool. I cannot tell you how many times that I felt a sensation. I could not tell you what that sensation was. I could only tell you that it sucked and that I didn't want to feel it. I would dissociate from myself, from that feeling. And it sucked even more because it just made that sensation, that feeling, even stronger the next time it came around. I wanted to find a solution of how can I find the language to describe how I'm feeling to someone else. That way I could be a better advocate for myself and I would have a better understanding of what kind of support that I needed. This is why therapists, counselors, life coaches, fitness coaches, any person who works with another person in the personal development capacity freaking loves color mending, is because it helps their clients find the language of what's going on and what they need support with so that they can make progress so much faster than having to spend the majority of their session together trying to find the language for how they're feeling, trying to identify what they're feeling, versus someone just coming in and saying, this is what I want to work on, and just getting straight into the strategies. I'm going to finish the interpretation of this, then I'll come back and we'll weave the clues together. I got to the part where I interpreted all the shapes and colors so I know what they represent. And now I'm at the part where I'm trying to weave all the clues together. Now this is the part that it may take people a longer time to be able to weave the clues together. Now the one reason why I created the coloring bet to give people access to the step-by-step guide is because what I was noticing was that people, when they looked at the color in the shapes charts, they would immediately say, I use the color yellow, so it means this, and treat their coloring like rules, which is exactly the opposite of what color mending is based around. Color mending is based on curiosity. It's based on collecting information, getting curious about how it applies to you, getting curious about what the sensation might be bringing up, and putting the pieces together. That is where I'm at right now, is putting the pieces together. The yellow oval, it has to do with a lack of character, being vulnerable, being greedy, specifically for more power and control. Kind of heavy concepts, but I'm not judging myself. And this is the thing that I think a lot of people have a hard time, is that when all these heavy emotions or these words come up, sometimes they get triggered with it because they're like, oh my God, am I the coward? Am I greedy? Am I lacking character? Probably. You don't have to make it mean that you're a shitty person. It's just information and you get to decide what to do with that information. Also, we haven't woven everything together, so I don't know if this is about me, if I'm carrying these emotions for someone else. That's what I'm trying to figure out with you watching me. The blue spikes have to do with a lack of interest, and the lack of interest is like fueling this anger. The black spikes have to do with expectations of others, which is also fueling anger. The red-orange background has to do with annoyed and emotional mirroring, and the white background has to do with isolated. When I think about this and where I'm at in my business, where I'm at with some of my relationships, I'm navigating a family conflict right now. When I think of all of that and I see all of these things, here's what comes to mind. And I'm proud of myself for putting this together because I think this message really is about me, and it's not like I'm carrying the emotional weight of someone else. It really is kind of showing me what Carl Jung calls your shadow. So it's showing me that people do get annoyed when I don't show up authentically, when I don't act in integrity, and they're mirroring back to me the detachment that I have with myself. They are showing up to the relationship, to the community I'm building with a lack of interest, not wanting to be around me. That also has to do a lot with like unfollows, which only fuels the anger, which fuels my lack of character, not showing up authentically, me wanting more control, me getting angry about the expectations of other people, me getting annoyed that they're mirroring back to me my patterns, and then isolating myself even more, which is keeping me from building the relationships that I want or keeping me from building the business that I want. All of that is just information. Yes, it stings to see those things, but it's also like, oh, that's what that is. That's what's keeping me from the things that I really want. That's how I'm standing in my own way. And now I know. That is what I'm going to work on with my life coach that I work with. Showing up more authentically, standing in integrity, being able to show up with a lot of character, not out of the space of wanting more power and control, but out of the space of where I want to connect with people. I want to be authentic. I want them to show up authentically with me. And also not isolating myself, putting myself out there more, telling more people about my opinions and my perspective, even if we disagree, but just being very open and honest, taking accountability. I just listened to this conversation with these two rock stars, and it was a masterclass in 1, authenticity, 2, how to navigate conversations where you fundamentally disagree. One of the things that I appreciate about this that relates to this, my coloring, is authenticity is showing up as yourself if you have the data points and if it is safe for you to do so. It's not throwing all your boundaries out the window and saying YOLO, I'm just going to show up as myself and put yourself in harm's way. It really is using your discernment to be able to know what is safe to be vulnerable in. That is the real lesson that my body wanted me to hear. I know what ways I can be authentic and vulnerable in a way that is going to keep me in integrity, keeping me motivated towards working on my goals and connecting with more people. So yes, I'm going to work on some of that with my life coach. As I'm talking through this, there's areas where I'm like, oh, that would be really good to work on with her. And I probably have 5 projects that I'm working on where I can implement these learnings into my approach in those projects. So not only does color mending help you understand what external support you need, it also lets you know and guide you towards understanding what decisions that you can make today that you can approach with a different perspective and a different lens. And all of that stuff is just going to compound over time to help you achieve your goals, feel more balanced, feel more connected to yourself and to others, to help you problem solve better, and to help you show up in your life the way that you want to show up. So yeah, that's color mending. So 2 things. If you color out your emotions onto a piece of paper, you can send it to me and I will interpret it for free. I call this Read My Colorings. The directions to submit your coloring are below. And if you want to learn how to guide yourself through color mending sessions, that is where the coloring bet comes into play. And the link to that is also in the notes below. This was so fun. Thanks for joining me this early morning, and we'll see you next time because I'm probably going to be doing this again tomorrow. Okay, bye.